Hi everyone, Genasai here. A few days ago I was going through some Genshin posts when suddenly I saw one of those typical build suggestions for Ningguang that remind me of something I usually notice when seeing this type of recommendations or showcases, and that is that attack is rarely used in goblets. The reason is understandable. We get used to the elemental damage because the output of elemental reactions is increasing this way. But does everyone actually knows that? Or at some point it begins to be done simply because it is what we see everywhere? Because honestly I think it's more the latter. And that's why I wanted to make this video explaining the difference between attack and elemental damage, as well as giving a couple of ideas regarding flexibility for builds and, as it's commonly say, thinking outside the box when it comes to building a character. So let's get started. The artifacts. This item that is so precious when it's good, but when it's bad, it fills you with disappointment in the game, your use of resin, and ultimately even your life decisions for being unable to figure out what to do, even in a game. Okay, perhaps that one a little bit too deep. But anyway, it is well known that the artifacts have a lower probability both in stats and substats of being what you're looking for. But of course, as masochists that we are, we lot of resin those artifacts domain for a couple of defense and HP expecting something better. So in short, being so difficult to obtain, wouldn't we be fools if on top of that, instead of trying as much as possible to suffice with what we have, we became demanding about it? However, it is what we usually do. Because we saw a pause, because we saw a video where the character did 10 trillion damage of crit hit with animal damage goblet, so it must be that that's how you do it, right? Simple logic, I mean. But that's not the case. And specifically if there is no associated elemental reaction. You'll see, you probably already noticed, but elemental damage gives you exactly the same percentage of scalability as attack does. The difference, as I said before, lies in the elemental reaction damage output. And if there is no melt or vaporize, for example, if there is only the character's individual damage, the output is exactly the same by itself. Of course, that'll also depend on the substats as well, but referring to the main bonus, same percentage, same individual damage output. Now, how to apply this knowledge is quite extensive. Suffice it is to say that, for example, many of us do not think about using HP in the goblet and attacking the sands in Hu Tao or Chun-Li, for example. Unless you see yourself in a situation and have some wit in turn, you will rarely think of a character like Ningguang double attacked, in the sands and the goblet, of course. Or even double attack as the 2 pieces set bonus, as with Gladiator and Shimnawa, for example. Despite being a game, sometimes we get overwhelmed with the amount of numbers and we prefer to follow the conventional ways. Despite being a game, we do not play with the possibilities. But, well, that is precisely why I'm here. As well as it's easier to console a build or showcase, it's also easier if I just tell you some ways in which you can play. But of course, that will take more than one video, so for now let's focus on this way only. So, when it comes to geo damage and attack, we have good ground to start playing with builds. And that is because geo only has one elemental reaction with no elemental damage output, which is crystallize. And being so, it doesn't matter if you use attack or geo damage, the output will be exactly the same. Which gives you room to play with the substats as a priority instead of strictly focusing on whether you use attack or not. This of course only applies if you're not concerned about losing some crystallized shield resistance, and honestly, I've never seen someone prioritize these over the damage output. So the possibilities this opens up are obvious. Not only you save the time of farming the Arcade Petra in this example for 15% of geo damage, when any 2 pieces attack will give you 18%. But also allows you to do without Guyun's domain, which doesn't have the most practical or flexible artifacts anyway. And this means that you will not have to wait resin on that strictly, and for example the gladiators you can get it from farming bosses. So you can be farming some bosses, and at the same time you will be getting artifacts that might help you build a character that not necessarily rely on elemental damage. And Geo is like the perfect character for that, for what I already mentioned. So as you can see in this example, in the case of Geo characters, you can not only end up gaining between 3 to 6% of extra damage, but you also save some time and most importantly, resin, if you only needed to go to Unfor Petra. Plus, this concept is not limited to Geo, of course. Sometimes, for example, you will find yourself farming an elemental set and by chance it is particularly rare that you get the right elemental damage that goes with the set. So if by any chance you got attack, you can use it provisionally, and you will really only be losing damage when it comes to using the elemental reactions. And although that matters, of course, for some characters more than for others, there are some characters that don't strictly rely on elemental reactions, like Xiao for example. And in that case, you will only lose on a small advantage. In the same way, you can use 2 pieces set of attack if you have amazing substats and no elemental set yet. So pretty much that was everything I wanted to say for this time, so thank you for watching, and as I said before, I'll be making videos like this for helping spread a bit of, knowledge about the gameplay. It's not even about taking the game seriously as you might think after watching all of this. Far from that, it's about enjoying the game in depth. Playing with the possibilities, as I said before, without limitations for what others think is correct or not. And of course, there will always be perfection in the numbers. But at the end of the day, the important thing is to be able to enjoy the game, to play, and do that using what you have, to be able to rely on what you already got. So anyways, thank you very much for watching the video again. I hope you liked it and found it useful, which is the most important thing. And share it if you think it will help someone else. And if you have any suggestions, you can leave them on the comments. Until the next time.